A preprocessor is a program which is executed before passing the source program to the compiler. Preprocessor commands or directives are always executed before the actual program. Preprocessor directives in C are mainly used for inclusion of header files and defining macros. Macros are small functions or the containers of constant values which can be used later in the program. In C, all the preprocessor commands begin with a hash. Anything which is followed by a hash will be processed by the preprocessor. Let's explore the different types of preprocessor directives offered by C. C supports a lot of preprocessor directives. Few of them are #define, #undef, #include, #if, #else, #ifdef, #ifnev. Here, #define is used to define a macro. #undef is used to undefine a macro, opposite of what #define does. #include is used to include a header file. #if and #else can be used to check if a condition is true even before the source is compiled. If the condition evaluates to true, then the statements under if are included in the source file, else the statements under else are included. #ifdef is used to check if a macro is defined. If the macro is defined, it returns true. #ifnef is used to check if a macro is not defined. If the macro is not defined, it returns true. We already know #include is used to include a header file. To include a header file, following syntax is followed. .h is the extension of the header file. Less than greater than tells the compiler to look for the file in system libraries. The header file is included in the program before the compilation. Now, let's explore how #define is used. We already know that #define is used to define a macro. To define a macro containing a constant value, we write. Here name is the name of macro and value is the value we want to assign it. All macros are defined globally just like the header files. Is a valid macro. If we write macros are normally used in situations when we want to store some constant values which are to be repeatedly used in the program. Here we have defined a macro named pi containing 3.14 as value. Since we know the value of pi won't change. Thus, this is a justified use of the macro. A macro can also contain a string. We'll define a macro named name containing the value programming hub. We will get programming hub as output. A preprocessor is a program which is executed before passing the source program to the compiler. In C, all the preprocessor commands begin with a hash. Hashtag define, hashtag undef, hashtag include, hashtag if, hashtag else, hashtag ifdef, hashtag ifnev are few preprocessor directives. Hashtag include is used to include the header file in the program. Hashtag define is used to define macros containing data that can be used later in the program.